unveiling the hidden truths of the Bosnian War. Join me as I dive deep into the hidden truths of the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina and see if I can piece together the untold stories that changed a nation. The Bosnian War, a 3-year conflict that ravaged the heart of the Balkans, left an indelible mark on the region's history. While the world watched in horror, the war unfolded like a chapter from a dark novel, filled with ethnic tensions, political struggles, and humanitarian crises. Today, we're going to explore the hidden truths of this devastating conflict and what we can learn from it. The war in Bosnia and Herzegovina was more than just a brutal conflict. It was a symptom of a deeper disease, one that had been festering for centuries. The Balkans, a region of breathtaking beauty, has always been a melting pot of cultures, ethnicities, and religions. But beneath the surface, ancient rivalries and unresolved issues simmered, waiting to boil over. The Bosnian War was a complex web of causes and consequences, a perfect storm of political, economic, and social factors. On one hand, you had the breakup of Yugoslavia, a country artificially held together by the iron grip of Tito's communist regime. On the other hand, you had the rise of nationalism, fueled by centuries-old grievances and a sense of victimhood. As the Cold War thawed, the Balkans became a hotbed of geopolitical tensions, with the West and East vying for influence. The region's leaders, from Milosevic to Tudjman, played on the fears and aspirations of their people, stoking the flames of nationalism and ethnic identity. In Bosnia and Herzegovina, the situation was particularly volatile. The country was a delicate balance of 3 ethnic groups: Bosniaks, Croats, and Serbs. As the country teetered on the brink of collapse, the international community stood by, seemingly powerless to stop the impending disaster. The war, when it came, was brutal and merciless. The siege of Sarajevo, a city once known for its multiculturalism and tolerance, became a symbol of the war's senseless violence. For 1,425 days, the city was cut off from the rest of the world, its residents living in a state of constant siege. The world watched in horror as civilians were targeted, buildings were reduced to rubble, and a once thriving city was brought to its knees. But the siege of Sarajevo was just one chapter in the war's narrative. There were other atrocities, other acts of genocide and ethnic cleansing that would leave deep scars in the region's psyche. The Srebrenica massacre, where over 8,000 Bosniak men and boys were killed in a matter of days, is still considered one of the darkest moments in human history. The international community, slow to respond to the crisis, eventually intervened in 1995. NATO's bombing campaign, while controversial, brought a degree of pressure on the warring parties to negotiate a peace settlement. The Dayton Agreement, signed in November 1995, brought an end to the fighting, but it was a fragile peace, one that would require years of nurturing and rebuilding. The Dayton Agreement was a complex document, a series of compromises and trade-offs that would shape the country's future. It recognized the independence of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also established a precarious system of government, one that would struggle to reconcile the competing interests of its ethnic groups. Today, as we look back on the war, we're left with a series of what-ifs. What if the international community had acted sooner? What if the country's leaders had found a way to overcome their differences? What if the war had never happened? These are questions that will haunt us for generations to come. But the Bosnian War also teaches us valuable lessons. It reminds us that conflicts are never just about borders or territories, but about people, their identities, and their aspirations. It shows us that even in the darkest of times, humanity can find ways to overcome adversity, to find common ground, and to rebuild. As we conclude this journey into the heart of the Bosnian War, I want to leave you with a question. What do you think is the most important lesson we can learn from this conflict? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to check out my next video, where I'll be discussing the current situation in the Balkans and how the region is still grappling with the legacy of the war.